V Squad, and welcome back to another episode of V Girl TV. As promised, I have another expat here giving you her take on what it's like being Black and what it's like living here in Panama. So, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Sharon Keene. I am Panamanian. I was born here in Panama. I lived in the United States for many, many years, and I moved back 6 years ago.
Oh, we lived the same amount of time.
Yeah,
together. Oh my God! So that means when I was here, we came.
Yes,
at the same
we
time.
came right around the same time.
So so everyone really knows my experience because I always tell them all the time like what made you want to come back after.
Well, I was living in California. That was the last place that I lived. I lived there for 4 years, and I just got tired of being in the States, and everything's so expensive in California. And I wanted my children to be able to grow up in their culture and around their family, because we were, just me and my ex-husband were over there with the kids, just me and him. So we made the decision to move back to Panama, and we just did it. We just moved back to Panama like that.
Did you have like any plan? Like, did you put anything have anything planned in front of all right, let me make sure that I have my house set up, or did you just say, you know what, F it, I'm just gonna go back and then that's it?
We saved for a year, and once we met our savings goal, we sold everything we had and we just dipped.
Wow.
Yeah.
What about work?
Well, I didn't have a job, and he's a lawyer, so he was able to come and start working right away. And luckily for me, I swear the planets aligned for me.
Yes, girl.
The company that I used to work for in Miami happened to be opening here, and they heard that I was here. I didn't even know that they were here, but they heard I was here. And they reached out and they were like, "What are you doing in Panama?" And I was like, "Oh, I moved back." They're like, "You're staying there?" I was like, "Yeah." They're like, "Well, we have a job for you."
Do you still work there now?
Yes, I work there.
Oh,
now.
wow.
Yeah.
See? Okay, so what was the main, for me, the main reason why I wanted to leave, because I lived in New York, in Brooklyn. And the main reason why I wanted to leave was because I didn't think that the States was really a good place to raise my son.
Exactly.
And obviously I have a Black child. And I didn't feel like I wanted him to grow up in an environment where that wasn't really an issue, as long as I was able to provide him, because I feel like here in Panama is more so it's about how much you can afford.
It is.
Right?
It's about what you could afford.
Exactly. So if I could afford to give him a decent lifestyle, that would actually help with, I would be able to provide the lifestyle that I want with him, for him.
Right. Well, the thing for me that had me in a situation that I wanted to come home was similar to yours. In the States, you have to live in the district that you want your kids to go to school.
Right, exactly.
And we were living in San Diego in a very good district, but, housing was super expensive because our kids were going to a really good school. And here in Panama, even though you may not be able to afford a private school, you can put your kid in any public school.
So that's a good thing, because there are some people that were saying that the public schools here are not too good.
Well, I don't think that it is what it used to be. My kids haven't gone to public school, but there are very good public schools in Panama. Like Ferminodo, that's a really good school. El America is a really good school. There's quite a few public schools that are very good.
Okay. So how did your kids get adapted to it? Because I know it's a culture shock. See, my baby, he came here when he was young. So
how old was he?
He was 4 going on 5. So, I mean,
he started school here.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, for my kids, it was challenging. For my son.
How old are they, first of all?
Well, right now my daughter's 18 and my son's 14. Yes.
Wow.
So when we got back, he was like 8, maybe, and he didn't speak almost any Spanish. And it was very, very challenging for him. But my son is not... whatever the teacher tells him, he's not going to argue with the teacher. If he doesn't understand it, he's like, that's what she said and that's what it is.
Right.
So he gets really, really good grades, but it was really challenging for him to understand the school system here. My daughter went to kindergarten here, and then we moved to the States. So when she came back, she still remembered what it was like, and she was happy, and she spoke very good Spanish compared to my son. My son just started speaking Spanish, and I didn't even notice. Okay, he was outside playing with the kids, and I was like, how are they communicating? And so I'm looking out the window. I didn't want him to see me, and he's talking in Spanish with the neighbors, and I just couldn't believe it. It's from one day to the next.
Kids learn faster. They learn how to pick up languages way faster than. Okay, so the next thing I want to actually talk about with you is, there's a lot of people that want to move to Panama. There's a lot of young families that want to move to Panama, and there's not much information out there because
there isn't.
It's literally retiring in Panama.
It's not for us,
right? And what made you decide? Because you live in the city. Mm-hmm. What made you decide to stay in the city versus going someplace else?
Okay, well, I like the city. I like the hustle and bustle. I need that. You had mentioned that, the cold and you don't get along. The cold and I don't get along. I'm never going to go live in El Valle or Boquete or anywhere like that because I cannot take, it'll be 77 degrees and I'm like, get me a sweater, So that's the reason that I decided to stay in the city. I have a house in Agua Dulce. Mm-hmm. And so whenever I want to escape, I just go over there and it's in the middle of nowhere. Mm-hmm. And I go over there and I hang out and then I come back to the city. But I just love the city. Yeah, there's and everything to here.
Do, everything. If you want to go have after work spots, you can go have a drink somewhere. If you want to do I'm a social person, so I like to socialize. Mm-hmm. So that's the reason. And I need to socialize with people my age or around my age. That's why I'm I cannot go to Boquete. That's one of the main. I cannot go there.
And the thing I like about the city the most, though, is that, like you said, there's so many things to do. I love nature. I love hiking. That's my thing. So, Cerro Ancon is in the middle of the city. And I go to Cerro Ancon and I feel like I am so far away from the city. I feel so removed from the city. There's animals and birds and all kinds of stuff to look at. It's very enjoyable, right? And once I come back down, I feel satisfied. I feel okay, I did my hike. I was out in nature, but I don't have to drive 40 hours, to get back to the city. I'm right in the city already.
Now, for those of you who don't know, the way I know Sharon or the way I met her was actually because a client had reached out to me and they were looking for someone to do dreadlocks. And I text some of the other girls that I knew that did hair, and they actually gave me a number. And I had never met her. I was just like, hey, I have a client that's looking for somebody to do their hair. Do you mind doing it? And she was like, okay, of course. So, and this is my thing. I am a strong believer that Black people need to stick together globally. And if there's an opportunity that I know that even if I don't know the person, I'm B1. And for those of you who don't know what B1 is, that means you're Black first.
Right. I like that.
People are like, what's B1? That's basically what it means. So I'm always going to be Black B1 and I'm always going to look out for my peoples first. Yes. No shade to any other races. I love you guys too. But statistically speaking, Black people are the most oppressed group of people globally. So that's the reason why I do it. And it's very interesting because you do dreads. And that's the reason why I contacted her, because the client wanted retwists for dreads. And here in Panama, dreads used to, nobody wanted dreads. Nobody wanted trenzas.
No.
I mean, braids.
And nobody wanted to, no one would get hired if you had them.
Okay. I said this, and people were in my comments telling me that I'm making things up. And I'm like, I'm really not making things up. My family is from Colón, and my father and my uncles have told me numerous stories about situations that happened in the past, back in the day or whatever, especially with the chombos and whatever. Now people are starting to embrace their natural hair. And I was surprised because I haven't had a perm or relaxer in over 10 years. Awesome. And I haven't had it in over 10 years. So when I actually moved to Panama, and when we decided to even do this business, it was mostly geared towards for Black people, obviously, because
and there is a lack of that here.
I said that, but people in the comment section
No,
was
it's the
telling
truth.
me
It's the truth.
that I was making it up. And even like with makeup, when I was saying like, you know, you can't go in the store and go buy makeup, and somebody had commented, even though I appreciate that subscriber, she was like, oh no, there's makeup, I don't have that problem, but you are lighter skin. And another thing is, people don't wear their shade of makeup.
No.
Here.
No. They walk around looking like ghosts.
Ghosts. Exactly. So when I actually was speaking to Sharon, I wanted to actually talk about how much Panama has evolved, embracing their Africanism, their Black firstness, because you do dreads, and I look at your Instagram, and I notice that people who are more like cholos
want to get their hair done.
No shade, okay? No shade. They want dreadlocks.
Yes. The majority of my customers have, non-Afro hair. Like they have straight hair or wavy hair. The majority of my customers. When I first got to Panama, a lot of people weren't into that. I only knew of one other person at that time that did hair. And it was just, basically Rastas that had locks, and certain artists, a couple of people had it, but it wasn't like something that you would go out and see someone with locks. My friends and I, like in the early 2000s, before I moved to the States this last time, we'd go out and we'd see, if we ran into a Rasta, we'd be like, oh my gosh, look, there's a person with locks, because it was something so rare to see.
Here in Panama.
And so when I moved back to Panama, people were starting to embrace a little bit more their Africanism, and embrace the look. My daughter, she's a dancer and she wears her natural hair. She's never relaxed her hair, so she always pushes her friends and has influenced a lot of people. Like, why do you do that? Don't use the creamy crack. It's bad,
It is. People don't know. It causes cancer.
It causes cancer. Those are things that were made to hurt the Black woman, and people don't want to believe it, and people don't want to understand it. But facts are facts.
Exactly.
Okay? So when I got here, I go out a lot. I socialize a lot. I go to a lot of parties, clubs, and stuff like that. So a lot of people started asking me, like, "Oh, you nice hair." So I had a conversation with a girl one day, and she says, I really love your hair. I wish I could have my hair like that. And I was like, you could have your hair like that, because her hair was natural. I was like, you don't have relaxer. I could do your hair. She's like, yeah, but it'll be hard for me to get a job.
Oh my God.
And so I told her, we need to be the change. We need to be the change. And I told her, I am a manager of a company, and I have locks. It's the person. It's you. If you have locks and you don't get a job, it's because you didn't do well.
But wait a second. I want to interrupt you really quickly. The company that you work for, was it an American company?
Let me tell you a little anecdote about that. So the company that I work for is an American company, but none of the people that work here in Panama are Americans.
Okay.
Other than myself. And so my boss at the time, he had worked with me in the States, and he knew me very well. And he knows how, my attitude and how I am. I'm very professional. I'm very direct. I'm very assertive, and I get the job done. That's the type of person that I am. So when I first got here, and he wanted me to work for the company, I know that I got that job. I know for a fact that the only reason I got that job is because he pushed that to happen, because I was the candidate that he wanted to hire. And because he was the one doing the interviews. And in the States, people don't really look at that.
Right, exactly.
Like they do here.
Exactly.
But I will tell you that once I started working there, my office is, the walls are made out of glass. And so whenever they're giving walkthroughs to new people, they walk by my office, human resources, all the manager office are one next to the other. And when people would walk by my office, they would do a double take. Like they'd look and then they'd look again. Like people were shocked to see a Black female with dreads, right? Being a manager in a company. A lot of the people that used to work there at the time weren't, they were people that I know that were chosen by the way that they look instead of by their capabilities. And so little by little, I started talking to the people that make decisions and trying to explain to them and trying to educate them, on the looks don't matter, And I started hiring people that I know probably wouldn't have been hired unless I hired those people, like people with face tattoos and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And those people ended up being the better employees. Yeah. And I said, you see, these are good people. So all of the people that made these decisions started changing their mentality, and now, you know, we don't have that situation. The director that's above me is my client as well, and has locks too. So the two highest positions in the company are Black people with locks.
And that's why I had made a comment one time on the channel that a lot of the reasons why people have these perceptions on Afro, because there was a huge case. I don't know if you remember, with the girl who went to work with braids, and she got fired.
Yes.
And because it wasn't appropriate, because I'm not making these things up, you guys. Some of you guys really, y'all trolls be really thinking I'm making these things up. And it's crazy to me that you can't go to work with braids only when it's Black History Month. Right.
Isn't that insane?
Yeah.
And school too. I mean, schools have the same problem. So my daughter has like 5 heads of hair in her head, right?
I'm so glad you're here, because when I say this...
No, I mean, Panama has a lot of really good things. But the problem with Panama is that it's a very classist system. There is all types of colorism within the Black community, which is another huge problem that we ourselves have. If you're Afro-Antillano or you're Afro-Colonial, or if you're a Come Coco, you know, you get treated differently. And but Panama has a lot of good things. It's just that people have allowed things to carry on for such a long time that it's become a standard. And we have to change that, you know. So like at school, my daughter would be told to pick up her hair because none of the girls are allowed to wear their hair down. They should have it up in a ponytail, all the girls. And my daughter told the principal, she was like, okay, well, she has her hair down, and she has her hair down, and she has her hair down. Is it because my hair is big? Because if it's too big, I can sit in the back. But I'm not picking up my hair unless everyone has their hair up.
And that's the problem that I find here, is that, and why I said that, because there is no Black history, people are not really educated enough, or they don't really know themselves enough. So if you don't know, if you are really ignorant to the fact, you cannot make decisions because you really just don't know.
Right.
And people in the comments saying, well, the reason why Panama doesn't have Black history because it's Panamanian history is for all. And I mean, I understand why they feel that way, because they don't know. And unfortunately, the trolls are going to be in this comment going in. I had people telling me, oh, that I can't speak because I'm not Panamanian. I'm like, what? Like, I'm very much Panamanian. Okay, so I don't know what you're talking about. So it's so good to hear it coming from someone else. So it's not like I'm making these things up, or it's like I'm just coming out of thin air and saying this. You do have some people that said that, you know, their child can go to school with braids. I don't know.
It's that school. It's that school. But like the contract of the school that my children are in, their school contract says that you can't have braids and you can't wear any type of extensions, and that you have to have your hair picked up. You have to have your hair in a ponytail. And the boys is the other problem. Like my son, you know, my son's a skater and he has red hair and he likes to wear his hair big and put a cap on it, you know. And here, you know, he has to keep a low cut. And that just like demotivates him. He's like, what does my hair have to do with school? Like, what does it have to do with school? But I tell him, you know, those are the rules of the school. And if that's the rule for everyone, we're good. If it's the rule for some, then we have a problem. Right,
exactly. I'm so glad that you're even saying these things, because I feel so much better, because
you're not crazy.
People really, and especially, and it comes from people who haven't lived in Panama for a long time. Maybe 1 or 2 still live here, but this is a problem country-wise. And again, like I always say, it's because they don't see race the way we see race, and until they are actually out of the country and they go to other parts of the world,
then they'll understand.
And see how Black people, or see how they would be treated in other countries, because you may not see it here. Okay, you may not have George Floyd here, but when you go outside of the country, you'll see how other people will treat you, and then you'll understand. That's why I'm like, you know what? I'm not even pushing my ideologies on anyone else. I know that what I have to do to make the change for myself and for my son, like right now I have him reading a book for those of you who said that there's no Black history in Panama. It's called, let me actually go get it. Oh, God. This is the book that I have him reading, People of African Ancestry in Panama from 1501 to 2012. This is actually a really good book, guys. And it is by Melville. Yes. Okay, so I have my 10-year-old son reading this, and one of the things that he said to me when he read the book was like, I didn't know Bocas was found by Africans. I said, why? What happened? He said, they told me it was the Spaniards that found Bocas. And these are things that are not taught in school.
They're not. I mean, it's and they use the excuse, as you said, it's just Panamanian history.
Yes.
And, we shouldn't have to segregate the history. And for people, when the whole George Floyd incident happened and a lot of people in Panama started hearing about this, I had to explain to people a couple of things. First of all, in the United States, things are made systematically to hold us down. Okay, that's not the way it is here. I can go get a loan and you can go get a loan, and we will not have a higher interest rate because of the color of our skin.
Exactly.
Okay, but what people don't understand is that here in Panama, they don't give us the credit that's due, and that's where the problem is. Black people founded Bocas, and they say that Spaniards founded it. The Cimarrones, no one talks about that.
Oh my God.
Okay, there's a lot of things that are just brushed under the rug and it's not a big deal, and our whole Africanism, with Congo, they make it look like, it's just a dance, when this was part of our religion and our spirituality,
girl,
and it was just taken from us. But yes, I know.
Ashe. Yes. Let me tell. Oh my God! I'm getting goosebumps right now, because I felt like I was really the only one. I felt like I was the only one that felt like this. So to hear this coming out your mouth, I'm just like.
The lady that wrote that book, she belongs in a group that's called Sama. There's a lot of Black groups here in Panama, and they meet and they do stuff. But the problem with these groups is that they're dying down. The people are getting old. The members are getting old. They're not really keen to new ideas and fresh, minds of the young people. So all of these things, she's so knowledgeable, and people that are in that association are so knowledgeable, but their knowledge is just is dying. They're all old, and they're all just leaving us one by one, and no one is taking the information that they have, and they're not really passing it on to anyone. They're not truly passing the torch on to someone else.
Right.
And so the youth in Panama are all confused. The problem with Panamanian Black people is that they're just confused. They don't understand, like you said, they don't understand who they are. They don't understand where they're going. They don't understand they don't understand anything. With people here, like you said, I have a lot of customers that have straight hair. I have a lot of customers that wear locks for fashion. And some of my Rasta customers think that they shouldn't have locks, that those people are entitled to have locks. And I tell them, so I was having a conversation with a friend, and I asked him why. And he says, well, they're not fighting for the same fight that we are. I was like, actually, they may not know that they're fighting that fight, but they are. Because just by having locks, they are setting themselves in a situation to be judged, to be searched by the police, for the parents of their significant other not to want them around, for people to think that they're nasty, for people to think that they're potheads, all of these things just because they have a look on their hair, a hairstyle, a certain hairstyle. So a lot of people are fighting towards a cause. They just don't really know what cause they're fighting for.
And that's the main issue that I find here, and it's frustrating because even with the whole George Floyd thing that happened and the whole Black Lives Matter, I had a friend of mine, and she was making comments and she's probably going to watch this. She's probably watching this right now. She's probably going to unsubscribe out of this. But she had said something that I took offense to, because she's like, well, all lives matter. And it's not a notion, yes, all lives matter. Yes, they do. We understand all lives matter. But right now, this is what we're talking about. This is the issue. And then they use, Black people kill each other. And, white people kill each other also. You know what I'm saying?
Is that people, the problem here is that people share information without researching.
Exactly.
Okay? And the other day, someone that supposedly is very pro-black put up a post saying that Trump was a good president because he was holding back on the elite. So I replied, and I was like, are you a Trump follower? You know, before I say anything further, I need to know where you stand.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, no, it's just I think that it's good that. And I said, you cannot be pro-black and be pro-Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You cannot just put that up there. Did you research those things? Because 12 of those 15 things aren't true. You know, oh no, I just thought it was good. So people just see things and they share without researching.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The whole all lives matter thing. And I tell people, all lives matter. Yes. But when the problem is you select of all of those lives, one group of lives that matter the least, and you want to oppress those people, then we're talking about those people. If my house is burning down and I run outside and I say, oh my gosh, can you give me a bucket of water because my house is burning down? You can't say all houses matter.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Are you going to help me or not?
Exactly.
And the problem with all lives matter is that you are not helping the situation. Those people that say all lives matter want to diminish what is truly going on.
Exactly.
Okay, they say, oh, it's just one guy. Oh, he was a criminal. Okay, so what about Sandra Bland? What about Alton Sterling? What about Philando Castle? Philando Castle, that happened in the same city as George Floyd. Okay, and that happened almost a year and 2 months or 4 years and 2 months before that. Like, do people not see a trend? And I tell people, until you have lived in the United States, you do not know what it is to feel someone look at you or treat you bad just because of the color of your skin.
Exactly.
My son is very, very, very fair skinned. And so when people would see my daughter and my son, they'd be like, are y'all brother and sister? Yeah. You guys have the same parents? And my daughter's like, yeah, we have the same parents. You know, it's just in Panama, everybody's so mixed, you know.
The genes just come out any which way.
And so my son looks like my mother. And so in school, they would ask him so often if we were his parents that he thought he was adopted.
Wow.
Yeah, he was like, are you sure you're my mom? And I was like, why would you say that?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, you know, it's just, we don't have the same color of skin. You know, like, he's really like white, you know? And he's like, I'm white and you're black. And I was like, you're not white. Your name is Tariq, okay? You're black, all right? So I don't care what anybody says, you know, you're black. You're just a lighter tone, you know?
Exactly.
And that goes to show that in reality, we're all black. It's just some people choose to not care about others. And that's what I tell people. And I tell my daughter all the time. Boys are going to like you because you look exotic. But a lot of these boys just like you because you look exotic. That doesn't mean that they want you to be their girlfriend. That doesn't mean that they want to wifey you up or anything like that. Because you're black. Mm-hmm. Okay? So you ask them. The first thing you got to know is, are your parents going to be okay with you dating me? And if they say no, you should not be in a relationship with that person.
Exactly.
Because a lot of people here in Panama are like, oh, she looks good and this and that. But they know that their parents aren't down with them dating a black girl or dating a black guy. Like, that's so common here in Panama. You know, it's so common. You see all the music videos here. In the music videos, the majority of the girls are not black. And I was talking to some artists the other day, and I asked them, and a lot of times they don't even do it on purpose. They don't even notice. And they're like, really? I said, yes. All of your videos have non-black girls. Let me see. Oh my gosh, this is true. So they don't even notice because they're just in their head doing their whatever it is that they're doing. But you are not helping us as a black woman. And as you said, black people are the most oppressed, but black women are the most oppressed. Harvard or some university, Stanford, I don't remember, did a study like in 2013, 2012, where they interviewed people of different races, men of different races, and asked them to rank, you know, the type of women that they would like. And between Latina, Asian, white, black, and black was ranked last. Amongst all of the races, black women were ranked last because if we have an opinion, we're being angry. Mm-hmm. You know, if we work too hard, we want to be intimidating. Mm-hmm. You know, everything that we do is seen in a negative light. Mm-hmm. And it's just really hard. You know, it's really hard. But here in Panama, it's not as hard as in the States.
Exactly.
You know, I feel... I go places and I feel welcome. Mm-hmm. And I go places and I see people, like, I went to Monagrillo, mm-hmm. and people were looking at me like, oh my gosh, who's that? Like, they were just in awe.
Okay, so another misconception, well, people are saying that I am, and this is coming from the guys. You know, the guys gave me heat on this because I haven't dated anyone here in Panama. Mm-hmm. And I personally feel like black men do not like don't like black women here in Panama. They don't date black women here in Panama. They usually date lighter, straighter hair.
Well, in my experience, I consider myself an equal opportunity dater. Okay? I love black men, and I have a preference for black men, but I'll date any guys. It doesn't matter to me. It is true what you're saying. Most of the time here in Panama, as a black woman, I must say it's not easy finding or either finding someone that I'm also interested in, or feeling that someone's truly interested in me. And it's the whole exotic thing. Like, if people see that you look exotic, they're like, oh, you look so exotic, I want to go out with you. This is my story. This is what happens with me. So guys are like, oh my gosh, you're so pretty, blah, 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 you're so exotic, I love your hair. Let's go out on a date. And I'm like, okay, cool. So we'll go out to dinner because I love free meals. Okay, I'm gonna take the free meal. I'll be like, all right, cool. Let's go to dinner, and I'll pick a place that I want to go to, and we go to dinner. So, they'll start asking me questions, and men in Panama are just easily intimidated. That's what it is. They're easily intimidated. Black women in general are strong women. Okay, Black women have to, most of the times, have been single moms. They've had to raise children on their own and do all these difficult things just to get by and keep a smile on their face because you don't want to be seen as aggressive, right? So most of the non-Black women are easier and docile, are more docile, and guys have told me that. They're like, it's like, you're not docile, and I was like, I would never be docile. Or guys here want you to be their property. Like, you're my girlfriend, I'm not anyone's anything. I'm me. And we could share time together, but I'm not a possession. Okay. And so
it's all the machismo.
So they want to have you as a possession. But all in all, I must say that what the feedback that I get from guys, and I don't have any female friends. All of my friends are men. So guys tell me, you're intimidating. That's the number one thing I've heard. You're intimidating or you never have time, or you're kind of aggressive, or me being very direct. Men find that intimidating as well. So I just end up being by myself.
I understand exactly how you feel. I know exactly how I understand exactly how you feel, but that's why I always say, like, in order for me to date anyone here, there would have to be someone that already came from the States. Girl,
when I was gonna have my son, and I'm not trying to put anybody on blast, but when I was having my son, when I was pregnant with my son, the father of my kids, we're not together, but he's the best, like one of the best fathers in the universe, and his family is mixed. They're all mixed, And when I was pregnant with my son, a lot of the people weren't happy. A lot of the people were like, his grandmother said once to me, she was like, I hope it's a boy. And I said,
don't tell me she's going to say pelo malo.
She said, because yo no sé hacer trenzas. Y yo no sé peinar cabello así. Yeah. She said, I don't know how to braid hair, so you better have a boy. When my son was born, and I was in the hospital, I was very shocked at how my son looked because he came out looking just like my mom. And my sister, I hadn't picked a middle name, and she picked it the day before he was born, which is Rohan, which means red hair. And I was like, he's not going to have red hair. She's like, yeah, he's going to look like mom. And he came out white with red hair looking like my mom. And so when he was born, a lot of the people were like, oh, I don't want to see him. It's just, it's like, el chombito, like that. And I don't like the word chombo. Okay, it's a derogatory term. Okay, so a lot of people weren't like, oh, I don't want to go see him. But when they realized that my son looked like Cupid, then they were like, oh, we want to go see Tariq. When I picked the name, which obviously I went through a plethora of African names looking for a name that meant something for my son because I was going to have a king. You know what I'm saying? And so when I picked that name, I had a lot of pushback because of the name. They were like, that's an African name. And I was like, but it was a king of Spain. He was black from Morocco. His name was Tariq, but he was the king of Spain. So does that make it less black? And I was like, my son, my pregnancy was very difficult. And I told people, no one's going to tell me what name I'm going to give him.
Exactly.
Because this kid almost killed me. So I'm going to name him whatever I want. And I ended up naming him Tariq. But I did feel throughout the years that I wasn't really accepted because I was black, and
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. So my ex-husband's new pareja is obviously not black. She's Hispanic, and him and we have a really good friendship and we laugh about it. But I'm like, people will look at that and be like, Sharon's an aggressive. And that's why he left her for this chola. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he's like, because that's what people will think. That's what people say. That's what people imagine. But all in all, here in Panama, guys like to be around you because you look exotic or because you have or because you live well or because whatever. But they are not trying to be vested in a relationship with you. They don't want that. They don't want someone that's going to try to be their equal. And I tell people, I don't want to be a man and I don't want my man to be a woman. I will cook and do the woman stuff, but he has to do all the man stuff, And there's no way that I'm going to be working and you're going to be working and we're both paying bills, but you still want me to do all the woman stuff. No, if I'm sitting at home, that's fine. But if I'm working just as hard as you are, this is equal then. Okay, this is a roommate situation kind of thing, But men in Panama don't. They're not about the black. They like the light skin, black hair, flat ironed. It's the same look. It's just, and all the women look the same. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was just me.
Like I said, I had spoke about this on the channel before. Like one time, a guy came into the store and the girls was like, "Oh, this guy was looking for you." And I was like, looking for me. And it was like, oh my God, it was this guy. He was black. He's so good looking. And he was like, oh, I don't like black women. He's black, white. I don't like black women, but she's exotic. And I was just like,
see?
What? So that was a turn off completely for me. That was like a major turn off for me. I was just like, yeah, no, this is not going to work or whatever. But I find that like more and more. But how the thing is like, how do we, moving forward, because something has got to give.
Well,
do you think that there's any hope?
No.
You don't think there's any hope here in Panama
for in that aspect? No.
Well, no, not as far as dating. I mean, like as far as, because I know there is like a group of people that are young adults that embrace their Africanism. So like but I've seen it, and it's just funny to me how they're so African this and they're so African that. However, they don't reach out to people who know about it. So it's unfortunate, and I don't, like I said, I don't want to force my ideologies onto anyone and my beliefs onto anyone. I'm a strong believer. Like, listen, I'm just gonna do my own community, and whoever is about that life, they're about that life, and then whoever else falls in line after that falls in line, because it's too exhausting and it's too frustrating.
It's frustrating
to keep on trying to explain something to someone that they don't want to know. But
as the longer you continue to do it, there is people that listen and they change their mentality. There is. It's like the starfish mentality. You can throw one by one. You're not going to save all of them, but you'll save some of the starfish. And that's the way I look at people. I start talking to them, and I determine if I'm talking to someone that is at my level, and then I decide, if I'm going to try to share my ideologies with them. I was talking to two of my friends that are very dark, and they're guys, and I was like, do you know that you're made of the same thing that makes the universe black outside Earth? Like we started talking about melanin and stuff like that, and they didn't even know. It's just people are so unaware. Because they don't teach it. It's not something that is like really pushed. Like it's just like, and that's what like frustrates me, because being black is beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. Like black people have contributed so much to the world, and it just, we, like you said, we don't really get any recognition from it at all. And if I don't teach my son, like he wouldn't know. If I didn't teach my son, he really would not know, and he would go out into the world being naive. Don't get me wrong, I appreciate Panama not being everything is all about race, but they still need to be knowledgeable, because when you leave Panama, the world is not going to look at you that way. Exactly. And a lot of people in Panama don't understand that. Like I I have never been anywhere here in Panama that I've been treated funny, like any restaurant or anything like that. And I like to go to nice places, and I've never been treated weird. And I know that my friends haven't either. But I tell them, this is not going to happen in the States.
Exactly.
Okay, if you go to a place like this in the States, dressed like, you know, in jeans and Jordans and a t-shirt, they're going to look at you funny and they're going to treat you weird, you know. And what you mentioned about the young, you know, like pro-black groups here in Panama, the problem is exactly that. There has been all types of community situations, like activities and stuff like that, but they only reach out to certain other pro-black people. They don't reach out to everyone, you know, and they're very segregated. You know, they want to keep it to themselves and between themselves, and they only help each other. I've been to a few like festivals and stuff like that, but only the festivals that aren't organized by black people I've been invited to. I've been invited to festivals by, like, you know, all these hippie people that make their festivals and stuff like that. And they love me and they invite me and they're like, oh, Sharon should be here, you know, or Sharon should speak here. But the young pro-black groups here in Panama, you know, they're in their own little, you know.
And then I noticed that they say they're pro-black but won't date black men.
Right. And the black men that say they're pro-black won't date black women. They'll on their stories on Instagram, it'll be a pro-black story, and the next story is a picture of, like, you know, a non-black female, and they're saying, like, oh, this is what I want as a wife, you know, things like that. Those are the things that make me, you know, that are funny to me, you know. I have dated guys that have told me, I have never dated a black girl. I have never dated a black girl. And I tell them, I'm going to change your life. Because you know that a man that has never dated a black woman, once he dates a black woman, that's it for everyone else. That's it. He's never going to go back to anything else. You know, like, that's the way it is.
I just wish and I just hope that, like I said, one of the things that I really wish that I could see here, even though other people may disagree, is that I wish they would have, you know, more history about us, about, you know, black history, because we are just as equal and important, you know, as every the Spaniards, you know, Christopher Columbus, but they don't share that, even with religion, you know, religion wise.
Oh,
that's
Lord.
a whole nother
yes, and
topic.
This is a highly religious country. That's why this whole quarantine situation has been able to work, obviously, because if it was anywhere else, people would have tripped. 6 months locked up, like we've been. But Panama's, when it comes to Africanism, and I tell people, you know, my arguments are very simple. You know, I don't go to church. I don't believe in religion as an establishment, and I tell people, as blacks, as people of African descent, we should try to always go back to where we came from, to our roots. If we eat the food, like, you know, there's DNA tests that tell you, like, where you came from, you know. Most of my ancestry is from Ghana.
Did you do it here in Panama? Because I was actually trying to get the kit, and it was like they don't ship it here, so I had to wait to go to the States.
That's what I did. I shipped it to my sister's house, and then we did it in Miami, and then she shipped it back up.
I cannot wait to do mine.
Yes, it's super exciting.
I hope
it's super
I'm
exciting.
I'm like, please let me be Yoruba. Please let me be Yoruba. Like,
I know, right? That's the same thing I was thinking. I was like, but when you look at the foods that the people where our origins are from eat, and you eat that way, you even feel more healthy. So imagine if you follow the religion of the place that you're originally from. That would even make you feel more whole. And I tell people, if they look at Greek religion and call it mythology, they cannot look at our religion and call it witchcraft. And when you start to read, which is a whole nother topic, but when you start to read into the Greek mythology or
and
the
Catholic,
Greek religions,
and Catholicism,
but especially Greeks basically took everything that they have is African. Medusa was African, and it says it in there. It says it in their writing that she was from Africa. You know, all of these gods were African gods that they also followed and just used the name in Greek, just like Dios and God is the same thing. So we have, you know, the system that we live in has obviously found a way to control us and not ask questions, you know, and just follow what we're told. And, you know, go grocery shopping with your whole family on Saturday, go to church on Sunday, then go to brunch,
Mm-hmm.
then, you know,
Mm-hmm.
Monday through Friday, go to work, come home, drink, and sit down on the TV and watch, on the couch and watch TV. You know, like,
Mm-hmm.
we're just little robots, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and there's very few people that are trying to step out of that system.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the people we have to help.
I agree. I totally agree. I actually really enjoyed this conversation, and I'm going to talk to you about other stuff outside this.
Yeah.
You know, I don't got time for y'all trolls because you guys are really just, y'all starting to get on my nerves. But I really appreciated this conversation, and I hope for those of you who are new to this channel, make sure you are subscribed. Oh, and follow Sharon. I'm going to put her Instagram in the link down below. You want to tell them your Instagram?
My Instagram is Goldilocks with a 0 and a Z at the end.
So link her, you know, if you're ever in Panama and you want to get your locks done, because you've done a couple of celebrities. I've seen that you did Beanie Man's hair.
Yeah, I've done Sesh.
Yes.
Almost all of the artists, the local artists, I do their hair as well.
See, there you go. So she's a celebrity hairstylist as well. So yeah, if you like this video, make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, make sure you share it. Even if you don't like it, you can still leave your nasty comments down below because you probably will anyway. Yeah. I really, like I said, I really enjoyed this conversation. Hopefully you'll come back another time so we could discuss other stuff, right?
Happy to.
Thank you guys, as always, for tuning into my shenanigans. As always, peace and love.
Bye.